Welcome to OAA Now, your home for Oakland Activities Association news and information. Here's your host, Sammy Taramina.
Welcome to OAA Now. I'm Sammy Taramina, blog of the Dragon's Den, blog inside the OAA, and one of the hosts between Taramina's and Orion Neighborhood Television. I'd like to welcome our friends watching on Oxford Community Television and also those watching on YouTube. We got a whole list to talk to you about today. Of course, a lot of basketball news. Of course, the boys basketball coaching carousel, of course, is starting to go a little crazy around the entire state. We'll talk about the two main hires at Rochester and Bloomfield Hills, and also possibly the two main coaches that could take on possibly OA teams come district play. And of course, we're gonna recap the state meet, the track and field meets, and also baseball and softball, along with, and of course, we'll get my thoughts on the impossible district ideas coming up. Of course, the MHA will release their districts in a span of 2.5 weeks. Of course, concluding after the state baseball and softball playoffs. So let's talk about our main story here today. Of course, we had two new basketball coaches around the entire league. Bloomfield Hills is one of the first ones. When you look at this hire, the hire of Phil Kirchin, their head coach over at Bloomfield Hills, I really am not surprised that they did this move. And, of course, Kirchin brings is a lot of experience, but I have a lot of concerns surrounding this move because when you look at how this pan out, I mean, he coached the junior varsity under Coach Mike Mariansky from 2015 to 2017, played Notre Dame Preparatory. Bloomfield, he takes over a team that finished 10-11 last season. But the record was just completely abysmal down the stretch. They were 2-9 down that stretch. They started off 8-2, then went to 2-9, lost to Troy in the state and the district semifinals. To me, when I look at this move, and I know a lot of people at the BIF 107.7 at Bloomfield Hills, that's the radio station over there, they ain't gonna like what I'm gonna say about this hire. This wasn't a surprising hire, but I really don't like this hire. Here's why. Doesn't have no varsity experience, and of course you're in a division. And you're in a division when you have a team like Clarkston, who's the defending state champs, West Bloomfield a state finalist from a state Final 14 from a year ago, Troy State basketball quarterfinalist, North Farmington was a state finalist last season. And then, of course, you have, then I mentioned Troy State quarterfinalists, and you have Southfield Arts and Tech and Hazel Park coming off their first district championship since 1965. And when you look at this move, this is really, in my opinion, not a good hire. And I'm telling you why this is not. It's because you are in a division like the Red, and it's going to be a very difficult division. When you look at those type of teams, you're going to basically see, I think this team's in a lot of trouble. And I don't know, I don't think a lot of people at the BIF are going to like me about this either, as I have a strange feeling that this team could, this could be a modified Rochester Adams situation. Remember Adams last season went 0-21. And it wouldn't surprise me if Bloomfield Hills goes 0-21 this year. It really wouldn't surprise me this upcoming winter. I mean, yeah, they got talent. There's no doubt about that. But the league they're in, the what they have coming up, the turmoil surrounding that program, it would not surprise me if that team goes 0-21. So that is it's an unfortunate situation how that unfolds. But, when you look at it here, I'm not a fan of this hire. When I look at this hire, of course, Kirchin, of course, he was in-house JV coach. He's the third coach in 5 seasons. So when I look at this move here, if I'm Bloomfield Hills, I'm a little nervous. I would be very nervous if I'm Bloomfield Hills. And that's saying a lot. It's going to have to change the culture and everything. And, with this hire, I don't know if he's the right guy for this hire. I really don't know. So it's an interesting situation how that's going to unfold there with Bloomfield Hills. Let's go to another hire. Of course, the Rochester. When you look at this hire, Rochester went technically went inside out the box. They named Vance Kirkwood their head coach. Takes over for John Pleasant. Of course, John Pleasant led Rochester State quarterfinal back in 2013 when he had James Young. The reason why this is an inside-out hire is because Kirkwood coaches golf at Rochester. He coaches the varsity golf team over there. But he also, oddly enough, he was a junior varsity coach at Troy for 3 seasons under Aaron Smith. Of course, he was a former player under Gary Freilich at Troy. Of course, he averaged 23 points a game. And he was tutored by both Freilich and Aaron Smith. Of course, Aaron Smith played at Troy, was on Freilich's staff, and at both Troy and also at Royal Oak. He took over the JV program over at Royal Oak. So when you look at this hire, I mean, it's a very interesting hire. When you look at an interesting comment from Luke Beach, the athletic director. I know Luke Beach very well. Of course, I've interviewed him many times on the football preview show. But he said this, and it's very interesting. He said this in this press release. He said, "Every individual we spoke to in regards to Vance all echo that you're getting a coach who truly has a passion for kids and will help them guide them to becoming better players and better people." And I know Vance Kirkwood very well. I respect the guy, Very passionate, very gifted as a coach. He knows how to win. He basically, Royal Oaks Junior Varsity, and I saw Royal Oaks Junior Varsity team play on 2 separate occasions, and, he gets a lot out of those players. When you look at Royal Oaks team, they weren't that wasn't necessarily the greatest team that he had, but, they work hard, they compete hard, and knowing the system that Kirkwood's going to bring over to Rochester, he's going to virtually bring a system that's very similar to Royal Oak's system, basically very similar, and also very similar to Troy's system. So when you look at that, they might go from there might be a transition period over at Rochester. And here's the thing, look at what Rochester's got. They got Hunter Slasher, LaMarco Gillich, Corey Gillich. Gulich, yep. LaMarco Gillich, Corey Gillich. So when you look at how that situation's unfolded, I mean, this could either go in 2 ways. The first one is the kids can buy into the system. They can buy in, and everything's all good and go. The second one is the most dangerous one. And you look at this one, it could lead to friction and turmoil because he could completely blow up the system, change it up, and basically just destroy the program. And that could be the worst case scenario for this team, especially when you have a 3-year starter and a 2-year varsity player back. So it's going to be a very, very, I think Kirkwood's going to have his hands full a little bit when you look at the players he's got back. I mean, he takes over a team that was only 21, 2-14, improved every season with 9-12 back in 2015. And last season, they were expected to take that main step, but the step really didn't materialize because they had a really bad league record. They had a really bad league record. I think their record was, I think it was 3-10. I think that was their league record a year ago. So basically, and I think, it's very interesting to see, that what happened over there with Rochester. Now, I got some questions surrounding that program. Will Kirkwood bring up Jeff Haney? Of course, he coached the junior varsity program, and also Lima Pereira. Lima Pereira was a coaching candidate over at Rochester, and a lot of what I heard, he was pretty close to getting that job, and eventually it did not go to him. It went to Kirkwood. Kirkwood, of course, does not have varsity experience, which is a huge concern. When you look at that's a concern that I have. He doesn't have varsity experience. I think he's going to have with Slasher and LaMarco Gillich. I think it's going to help him to basically, get them to ease with varsity competition. It's a very interesting gig over there at Rochester. Of course, you're not only competing with your two city rivals, Adams and Stony Creek, but you're going to be in a division where you have you're going to have Pontiac, Lake Orion, Farmington, Harrison, Ferndale, Berkeley, Royal Oak, all in that division. That's not going to be an easy division, especially because you have Lake Orion in there, you have Pontiac in there, and you have Farmington in there. So that's not going to be an easy. And I think Berkeley's going to be a better team than people think. So when you look at how that is unfolded, it's going to be a really, really tough stretch. I think it's going to be. And you look at that situation, how that's going to unfold, and that has got disaster written all over it, I think. I mean, so it's going to be a tough fold. But if those two are not back, if they're back, it'll be interesting. So we'll see what happens. We shall see what happens with Rochester. We shall see what happens to them. Now, other coaching moves that really have my eye. Couple of them. There are two of them. The first one's at Grand Blanc. And when you look at that one, that hire of Mike Thomas, of course, Mike Thomas was an assistant coach at Albion College. And then, of course, before his stint at Albion College, he led Kalamazoo Central to two state championships. When you look at that one, back in 2012, I think this is a great hire for Grand Blanc. When you look at the Bobcats, this is an interesting hire for them. I think at the end of the day, it's I love this hire, especially considering that Grand Blanc next year is leaving the Kensington Valley to go to the Saginaw Valley. So the Saginaw Valley could be a very interesting basketball conference heading into next year. So when you look at how that's going to unfold, I love the Mike Thomas hire. He's going to do a really good job with Grand Blanc. Of course, Grand Blanc last year has had a history of underperforming the last few years. So this is a hire that I really am curious to see how this is going to unfold. Now, the reason why the Grand Blanc hire is interesting is because when you look at the district in the northwest part of Oakland County, you look at, of course, you have Holly, you have Brandon, you have, of course, in Genesee County, you have Shorts Creek, you have Linden, you have Fenton, and you look at, and then, of course, you have, and the others, you have Lapeer, Davison, you have Saginaw, Arthur Hill. I think this move brings Grand Blanc a little bit. This move's going to make Grand Blanc into a better basketball team. I'm not sure how they're going to do it in year one, but the reason why this has an OAA feel to it is because there's that team known as Clarkston. Because it wouldn't, let's say, for example, if the MHA does decide to move Clarkson back northwest, and it could very well happen. I mean, last season, that district over there with those teams in there, especially in boys basketball, a lot of those teams had losing records. And when you look at, what Clarkson had to go through, of course, when you look at in their district, you had Lake Orion, you had Oxford in there. But still, if you put Clarkson with northwest Oakland County, southern Genesee County, then it's going to be really interesting, and I think it could be really bad for those teams in Genesee County. But either way, it looks like, but if you look at it, Mike Thomas in a matchup against Dan Fife, can you imagine that matchup? Could you just imagine that matchup? It's happened before. Kalamazoo Central did win that matchup against Clarkson, but, I think Clarkson's a little bit better now when you look at who they got back. And then you look at the future of that program. I think Thomas is going to have his handful over at Grand Blanc. I think he's going to, because he's got to, one, get the kids to believe in the system. Two, how is he going to hype up the atmosphere at Grand Blanc? How is he going to do it? That's the million-dollar question when you look at that hire. It's a good hire, I think, to bring back Mike Thomas. It's a really good hire. From a college coach's perspective, he coached at Albion. When you look at from another perspective, I think he's going to do a really good job at Grand Blanc. So we'll see what happens there. The reason why it is, Clarkson could be a very interesting matchup. We'll see what happens there, how the MHA does that in about 2.5 weeks. And then, of course, let's look at another hire. It's at Waterford Mott. When you look at this one, and then we'll briefly talk about the other two hires. Of course, they could be a threat to West Bloomfield. Let's talk about the Dave McGowan hire. Of course, he's named the new head coach at Waterford Mott, succeeding Jeff Jason. And when you look at this hire, I mean, it's an interesting hire but I've got some questions regarding this hire. Of course, a lot of people know Dave McGowan from his time at Berkeley. He's done a masterful job with them. I'm not sure how he left the program at when he left Berkeley. Of course, Joe Sermo's now over there, taking over, trying to rechange the culture over there at Berkeley. I've got some concerns about McGowan's hire. I really do. And when you look at this, considering that, you're going to be in a league with basically Wall Lake Western. You got Wall Lake Northern. They got a new coach over there. Of course, Lakeland. They got a new coach over there. Lakeland, I know it's Ronnie Thompson's the new head coach over there. And of course, John DeCage is the head coach at Wall Lake Northern. Ronnie Thompson, of course, is at Lakeland. Dave McGowan's an interesting coach because, when you look at his teams, yeah, they work hard. I mean, he's had the luxury of Jordan Cobb. He's had the luxury of that for the last few years. But when you look at Waterford Mott, who they got back, Noah Fierce is back. Kimani Fields is one to keep an eye on for sure over there at Waterford Mott. And of course, I think Dalen Baldwin is another one to keep an eye on. Of course, a lot of interesting pieces over there at Waterford Mott. But the question in that many people's minds is going to be this. And you look at this hire, and you look at this. If you think about it, if that district is the same as they were if they were with teams like Lake Orion, Clarkson, Oxford, those three teams in that district, I think Waterford Mott's in a lot of trouble because when you look at Clarkston, a team, they return a lot of people back, defending state champions. Lake Orion is a team that returns a lot of people back. I think they're going to be a better team. Oxford, they lose a ton of pieces, but they're well coached. Steve Laidlaw does a magnificent job of that team. Of course, they have Michael Rash coming back. I really like Jimmy Claudio, who's going to be a really good player for them. And of course, I got to remember the other one. I think it's Henning, I believe it is. Noah Harding. Yeah, that's what. Noah Harding. And I think he's going to be a really interesting, it's good. Oxford's got pieces. There's no doubt. I think when I look at that district right now, and if it were the district, I think Lake Orion's better, Oxford's better, Clarkson's better than Waterford Mott right now. And I think when you look, and of course, here's the thing. Those three teams know McGowan. Those three teams know him. And, so basically, when it gets to district play, those three teams, if any of those teams match up with Waterford Mott, I think those three teams can beat them. When you look at from that perspective, and then of course they're going to be also in a difficult league with the as mentioned earlier. So that's a tough league to stay. I mean, other moves, of course, Ronnie Thompson at Lakeland. I like that hire. Wall Lake Northern could be an interesting hire with John DeClash. That could be a threat to West Bloomfield. So we'll see what happens going forward with each of those hires. So final thoughts, a lot of hires around this league. So when you look at it from that perspective, Bloomfield Hills, I'm very concerned about that hire. Rochester has the capabilities, I think, to being a good hire. But if Kirkwood cannot get to Slasher and the Gulich brothers, then I think there's going to be trouble. So, but we'll see what happens with them going forward. So, can he turn Rochester around, make them a better basketball team? That's $1 million question. So we'll see what happens there with that going forward. Okay, now we come back. We're going to talk about some recapping the track meets and, of course, recapping what's been going on around the league here on OAA Now.
You'd do anything to take care of that spot on your lawn. So why not take care of that spot on your skin? If you're a man over 50, you're in the group most likely to develop skin cancer, including melanoma, the cancer that kills 1 person every hour. Check your skin for suspicious or changing spots. Go to spotskincancer.org to find out what to look for. A message from the American Academy of Dermatology.
Welcome back to OAA Now. It's Sammy Terramini here. We'll briefly recap what's been going on around the entire league this whole spring. Track and field recaps. Of course, they had the state meets for Classes A and Class B. Class B, of course, Avondale didn't perform very well, but they did all right. Both boys and girls. Ferndale scored some points. Hazel Park got some points. But either way, the Division II meet at Zeeland West, of course, no OA team did not win that. So basically, that's what happened there. The Class A meet over at East Kentwood was really interesting because it got close, till the end. The boys' side of things, East Kentwood, I think, ran away with it. Oak Park took third. Cameron Cooper had a nice day. And then the girls, it was really close. Of course, Ann Arbor Pioneer with their depth was too much for Oak Park. And that one ended up winning for Oak Park. For Ann Arbor Pioneer. That fair share. East Kentwood, I think, took third in the girls' side of the meet. So, it got me thinking. Does the MHA need to change the qualification standards? And, I thought about this on Twitter, and I think about this all the time. I'm a middle school coach, and you can qualify during the season to get to the meet, to get to the Oakland County meet. In middle school and high school, it's the same qualification. Should the MHA take that route? There's only one reason you can qualify. One event you can qualify, and that's your regional. I don't think that's right. And the reason why I don't think it's right is because you're just given one chance. One chance to get your dreams, to put your dreams, to go to the state meet. Just one chance at the regional. That's not fair. And I'll tell you why it's not fair. Because you look at, there is a lot of athletes that do track and field. And they work so hard they put the work in during the summer months, during the fall months, during the winter months, just to get ready for the season. And of course you have the dual meet season, the invitationals. And to see them just get one chance to go to states. And the state rules are absolutely ridiculous because when you look at this, the rural state, you can take the top two or those who qualified past the qualification mark can go to states. Who beat the qualification mark go to states. I think what they need to do personally is have a qualification mark, have everything met, and basically, and use it during the season. Like, let's say if an athlete breaks a record, if he breaks the county qualification mark, and he goes to and of course he does it during a season at an invitational, and you look at he beat it and he doesn't beat it at the regional, he doesn't go to county. He doesn't go to the state meet. He doesn't go to the state meet. That's not fair. That is not fair. So I'm saying, Mr. Roberts, open up the qualification standards. That's the Mr. Jack Roberts. You know, open up the qualification standards. I'm serious. You do it for the entire season. You should do it for the entire season, not just one meet. Because that's all people have is one meet to qualify. That's not right. For him to basically just have the regional format, just basically say, be your only chance to go to a state meet. That's not right. That is not right. You know, then what does this do for the, let's say, if you break it during a dual season, if you break a record during the invitational, you know, that doesn't get you going to states. It's not fair. It's not fair to all these athletes in the state of Michigan who worked their tails off, you know, to basically just say no. You know? So if I'm the MHA competition committee, and especially you, Mr. Jack Roberts, open it up. Open up the competition. Open it up. You know? Bring more kids involved to the competition. You know, give them that chance to be who they are. You know? I mean, trust me, there are a lot of people, you know, if you think about it, you know, there's been schools like, I'm going to use, excuse me, there are a few schools I know that only had 3 athletes go. And, you know, I think about it from this perspective. And it's not, I mean, like, because they did well at the regional. They did well at the regional. You open it up, a lot more kids go. You know? It gives everybody in the state at least a chance to win it. You know? So think about that. Think about it. Do I think he will? I don't know. That's why I'm daring Jack Roberts to come on the show. Daring him. Seriously. It'd be very interesting. Would be very interesting, to say the least. You know, so I think that's what the MHA should do, is open up to everybody. You know, at the county meets, they do it. Oakland County meet, I know for sure they have qualification marks. I know middle school, they have qualification marks for middle school. I mean, you know, they have to meet. You know, if they don't meet it, you can send your best person there. So, end of the day, I think that should be a good idea for the entire state. I think it's time for the MHA to look at that route. It really is. There are no more girls soccer teams in the OAA. Troy was knocked out the other night by Utica Ford. Probably the big upset was Stony Creek losing to Utica Eisenhower. I call that a big upset. That was a rough way for that to happen. So when you look at that match, when you look at the teams this year, girls soccer, you know, interesting year. Really, really interesting year. You know, that was a big upset. Stony Creek losing district final at home to Utica Eisenhower. Of course, Utica Eisenhower was knocked out by Walled Lake Northern the other night. So, no OA teams left. Of course, Troy was the last hope. They lost to penalties to Utica Ford at Swinehart Field. So, you know, it is what is. It is what is. Let's look at softball. Of course, you know, of course, there's one region we're going to cover this weekend. Preview this weekend. It's going to be the Region 7 meet at Clarkston. Clarkston takes on Seaholm. Clarkston won their district over, beat Waterford, Mott. Lake Orion and Oxford played each other, went 10 innings. Game went to Oxford, and then Oxford just literally ran out of gas against Clarkston. It just literally, and Clarkson's offense got to him. So, Clarkson won that top district over at Lake Orion. Seaholm actually, I thought Seaholm, they really did well in the district. Seaholm did. Outscored both Troy and Bloom Bay Hills by a combined 30-12. They're riding a ton of confidence. But when I look at this matchup, I don't know how Clarkson's going to win. I don't know how Seaholm's going to win. And the reason why this is, one, because Clarkson's home. Two, I think it's going to be a ugly, ugly game for Seaholm. Clarkson's got too many weapons offensively. They got pitching. I mean, they got some pitching. There's no doubt about that. But I think Seaholm's going to be, they got everything against them in this matchup. So, you know, at the end of the day, I just don't think Seaholm's got a chance against Clarkson. Really don't. Other matchups, Troy Athens, Utica Eisenhower. This could be a really interesting matchup. Troy Athens has destroyed their two district opponents by a combined 24-0 score. While Utica Eisenhower has destroyed both their opponents by a combined 22-5. So when you look at that match, it could be really interesting. Troy Athens, I think, is going to be literally playing for house money in this region. I think the pressure's on Utica Eisenhower because when you look at Utica Eisenhower, you know, they won that Stony Creek district. No, they won that Romeo district, beat Romeo, and then, of course, I think they got a gift when they played Rochester Adams in the district final because when Adams up with Stony. So that was a big upset. So when you look at that matchup, I think it's going to be a Clarkson Utica Eisenhower final or Clarkson Troy Athens regional final. I just think that, you know, at the end of the day, I still think the hosts are going to win this one. I think Clarkson will win this regional pretty convincingly. And I think at the end of the day, home field matters. And that's going to be the difference. It's going to be the home field, Clarkson's experience. And I think it's going to be it's going to be very interesting how Clarkson does in the softball regional over there on their home field. So I like Clarkson win their regional in softball and move on to possibly have a clash of Farmington with Mercy in the state quarterfinal next week. So that'd be very interesting to say the least. And then we have baseball. You know, there's a couple teams in here that we'll preview. Of course, we got our first one is a team that comes out of nowhere, and that's Hazel Park. You know, Hazel Park was down. They were down 3 runs, and they ended up beating Centerline. Centerline was a team I thought would win that district handily. But, you know, Hazel Park came from behind, beat Centerline, and now they're in the regional at Madonna University against a team like Livonia Clarenceville, who's going to be a very tough matchup for them. The other side of the match, on the other side of the bracket, you know, you have St. Clair Shore, Salt Lake, and Dearborn Devon Child. Devon Child is a very good team. Dearborn Devon Child is a very good team. Salt Lake's an interesting team because when you look at that matchup here, Salt Lake had a pitcher go off and pitch a no-hitter. And then in their last 2 games, they've outscored their competition 21-0. So for Hazel Park, I think they're going to be playing with a lot of house money. I think Hazel Park gets the regional final. I really do. But at the end of the day, I think they're going to run a team named Dearborn Devon Child, the Falcons, and I think it's going to be the Falcons that win out. And the reason why Dearborn Devon Child is a very good team, they're experienced, they have they're pretty good. They are a team to keep an eye on. I mean, they had no problem with Melvindale. They got a good offense. They can score with anyone. I just think that Dearborn Devon Child will score with and they play in the Catholic League. So that's going to be a really, really tough task. I think Hazel Park gets to the regional final, but I don't think they're going to get that. I don't think they're going to get past the Falcons in there. It wouldn't surprise me if they lose to the Trojans, but Hazel Park right now, they're a team that's playing with a lot of house money right now. So Hazel Park's a team I think could definitely be a team to keep an eye on going forward. But, you know, I think it's going to be a tough chore for Hazel Park in this matchup at Madonna University. So that'll be an interesting matchup. Rochester takes on Royal Oak. in Class A. And we look at that matchup, and this is a mismatch on paper. But a lot of people said, you know what, the upset of the year, I think Royal Oaks win at Troy Athens in the district final tells me a little bit. And Royal Oaks, a team that they play in the gold division. And they've got a lot against them. So they're going to say, well, we're going to play loose against this team. We're going to play really loose. I mean, Rochester's experience, they went to state quarterfinal a year ago. They were in the red this year, shared the crown with Lake Orion, who's in the other side of the bracket. Rochester's peaking at the right time. We're playing loose. We got nothing to lose. So I think Royal Oaks going to be playing that type of thing. They got nothing to lose. And I think they're going to lose pretty bad to Rochester. But, if they upset Rochester, I'll be owing a lot of people at Royal Oak an apology. Because if that's if they stun Rochester, do I think it's going to happen? No. So I think Rochester move on to the regional final. I think the big one is in the other matchup, and that's Orion taking on Birmingham Brother Rice. And this is going to be a fun one. When you look at this matchup, the Dragons and the Warriors. I mean, Lake Orion's coming off a really good district win. It took out Oxford close. They beat Clarkston 5-0, and now they're taking on Birmingham Brother Rice. Birmingham Brother Rice has been red hot lately, the Catholic League champions. Then they went through their district, beat Bloomfield Hills, who took out Groves, and then, of course, they took out Troy. So when you look at that matchup, and it's interesting because Birmingham Brother Rice features 3 players from Lake Orion and the town of Lake Orion on that matchup. When you look at Alex Kuster, who is their ace, of course, Alex Kuster's the younger brother of Lake Orion basketball, former Lake Orion basketball player Roman Kuster. And of course you have J.D. Allen, lives in Lake Orion, plays on that team. And then you have Kyle Livingway, of course, his 2 sisters, played at Lake Orion. Sierra Livingway currently plays on the Dragon volleyball team. Rachel Livingway played on the Lake Orion volleyball team. Back I think the year they went to the state final. So when you look at volleyball, so this is going to be a really interesting storyline between those 3 players going against their friends. They're going against their friends, their classmates, and to say that, they played together in summer league. I mean, so this is going to be a really, really interesting matchup. But yeah, Birmingham Brother Rice is ranked 5th, but you can throw state rankings out of the window. You can throw that one out of the window. I think it's going to be a really good game over at Clarkson between Lake Orion and Birmingham Brother Rice. It's going to come down to can Lake Orion score off Kuster. That's going to be key. If he can do it off Kuster, I think it's going to be really interesting. But just a lot of subplots, especially with the 3 Lake Orion residents playing on Birmingham Brother Rice. Decided to go to Birmingham Brother Rice and not Lake Orion. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens there. Especially those 3 players in Kuster, Allen, and Livingway. So really, really interesting matchup with that one. I think Lake Orion will win this one. I'm not being a homer. I just think because of pitching, I think it's going to be a good old pitcher's duel here. I think it's going to be a 1-0, 2-1 game. I think, when I look at that matchup, I think Kuster's going to pitch at least 6-7 innings. I think that Lake Orion's twosome pitchers are going to pitch basically between 6 and 7 innings. This could go extra innings. It wouldn't surprise me if this game goes extra innings. So, and the regional, I think it's going to be Orion-Rochester. I like Lake Orion to come out of that one. It'd be interesting. Rochester's got a lot of experience, but I just think Lake Orion, the way they're playing right now, they're playing very well right now. So that's an interesting spot to keep an eye on. So, end of the day, I think Lake Orion does win that and move on to the regional. But it wouldn't surprise me if a Birmingham Brother Rice wins that regional, or if Rochester wins that regional, it really wouldn't surprise me heading into the final week of the MHSAA season. So we'll see what happens going forward to each of the teams. Of course, it's a very interesting matchup because you have the defending Catholic champions taking on the co-red champs. So that'll be very interesting to say the least. So we'll see what happens going forward in those matchups. My final thoughts on it, of course, we'll see what happens. Of course, we recapped a lot of it. Lacrosse, of course, Birmingham United, they're taking on, they're going to be playing in the lacrosse regional in the state semifinal. They're playing Heartland, so that'll be a very interesting matchup there. Heartland's undefeated, so it's going to be a very tough matchup for Birmingham against Heartland. If they win that, they're going to take on Rockford or Northville. Could be a rematch between Birmingham United and Rockford. Be very interesting to say the least. So we'll see what happens there going forward there. Okay, now when we come back, we're going to talk about my possible district thoughts and ideas here on OAA Now.
If you keep tanning, indoors or out, the effects of harmful rays will show up on your skin. Wrinkles, age spots, and an increased risk of melanoma, the second most common cancer in women 15 to 29. Stop tanning. Time may not be on your side. Learn how to protect your skin at spotskincancer.org. A message from the American Academy of Dermatology.
Welcome back to OAA Now. I'm Sammy Taramina here. Of course, we like to congratulate Avondale softball coach. They will have a new softball coach next year. Lisa Allen is retiring after 17 seasons at Avondale. Her team did conclude the season by losing 10-3 to state-ranked Richmond at home on Saturday afternoon. Avondale finished the year at 13-10, but special congratulations to Allen. Very good coach over there at Avondale. When you spend 17 seasons over there, it's a long time. So pretty good resume. I like to send my congratulations to Avondale and their and Coach Lisa Allen. Of course, I know she's gonna be retiring, and I like to send out good thank you to her, and wish her best of luck in retirement. So, Avondale will be interesting to keep an eye on next year because they lose 5 seniors. They will be an experienced team next year, so that'll be a very interesting plus for the Yellow Jackets, whoever the new coach is going to be for that program. So, so just wanted to make short mention of that before we go to my district thoughts and ideas. I wrote my blog article a few days ago about what I think could be a possible districts. Now, these aren't going to be the official districts. They're probably going to be released probably after Father's Day weekend. Probably after the baseball, softball final. When they come out, they will be out. So, of course, you always look at the volleyball districts, and of course, when you look at those districts, you kind of have a good idea how the basketball districts are going to go, because basically the volleyball districts and the basketball districts are literally the same. So, so when you look at that situation, how that unfolds, it's going to be really, really interesting. Of course, if you watch, how the district proceedings are done. So I would encourage those to make sure you check the volleyball districts, because those are an indicator how your basketball districts are going to look. I will write a separate blog article about the districts once they come out, and what are my insights on each of the teams' outlooks going to be heading into those districts. They also will release the regional side of things and all that as well. So that's how the MHA really does with their volleyball and basketball districts. Now, when I wrote down my first one, I'm going to go from 7. I wrote down 8 projections where I think each of these teams are going to go. And, the District 8 projection is where I think Pontiac's going to be, because they moved down from Class A to Class B. I think they're going to be in a district with Notre Dame Prep and Birmingham Detroit Country Day. Could have Kingswood in there. Clinton Township, Clintondale could be in there, along with Clawson. And Madison Heights, Lampier, Madison Heights, Madison. It all depends with their enrollment size with Madison. My possible projected location, I think it'd be a good fit for them. Be a Clawson for volleyball and basketball. Basketball be a Country Day. When I look at it here, I think it's going to be a tough one. And we're going to briefly talk about Pontiac for a minute here, of course. For them, I think it's going to be a tough sell for them. If they're in a district with Pontiac, Notre Dame Preparatory, and Birmingham Detroit Country Day, because they are both very good in Pontiac Notre Dame Prep, very good in volleyball, and also boys basketball. Girls basketball, they're all right. Detroit Country Day, we know about them, and girls basketball, they're pretty good. We know about boys basketball, they've been on and off under Mike Bray. Volleyball, they're decent, so... But when you look at it, I think the two top teams Pontiac's going to have to deal with in volleyball will be Clawson and Pontiac Notre Dame Prep. And, of course, in basketball, boys basketball, it will be Pontiac Notre Dame Prep. And, of course, in girls basketball, it will be likely Birmingham Detroit Country Day. So, tough sell for Pontiac going forward into that district. So, it'll be a tough sell there for Pontiac. The last one in Class B, it's going to be Ferndale. I have them in the district with Ferndale University, Detroit Mumford, Troy Henry Ford, Creative Studies, Detroit University Prep, and adding in there Detroit Collegiate Prep and Northwestern. Of course, that was the same team knocked off Hazel Park. Hazel Park, they moved to Class A. I thought about moving a team up here, making a 6-teamer, but a lot of them, a lot of them are going 17s with Class B. So when you look at it here in this one, with Hazel Park's move up to Class B, to Class A, I think it's going to be a very tough sell for whoever Ferndale gets to deal with. Either way, I just think it's going to be a really tough matchup. Volleyball, basketball, I think it's going to be Detroit Mumford. And then boys basketball is a complete mess. You look at Detroit Collegiate Prep and Northwestern. You look at possibly a Detroit University Prep, who's always been good. So I think it's going to be a really tough sell for whoever gets that nod over there with Ferndale. So that'd be a tough matchup, I think, for Tom Stanton's team in boys basketball. Girls basketball will be a tough sell. I think Ferndale can get to the district final. I think they're going to run into Detroit Mumford. So it'll be a really tough sell for Ferndale going forward in that projected district. Not a Class A. I think this will be a district here. Don't quote me here, but I think I can see a district with Southfield Arts and Tech, Oak Park, Hazel Park, Berkeley, Warren Fitzgerald, Detroit Renaissance. The reason why I see this is because they're so geographically close. And, Hazel Park re-enters Class A from Class B. I think it's going to be a very tough matchup for Hazel Park. And I think, being in the OAA is going to help them this year. Playing in the red in boys basketball is going to help them a ton. Girls basketball, they should be familiar with Berkeley. Warren Fitzgerald, Detroit Renaissance. I just don't think they're beating Southfield Arts and Tech or Detroit Renaissance in girls basketball and in volleyball. Berkeley, Detroit Renaissance have a great chance. Hazel Park's got a shot. So, so it'll be very interesting to see how that unfolds in there. So, really, really interesting how that's going to be. District 5. I got a district pair with Farmington, Harrison, North Farmington, West Bloomfield, and then, of course, Farmington, Merced, Orchard Lake, St. Mary's. I don't really see any changes here. They could send West Bloomfield back to Milford and Lakeland and the Walled Lakes, but I don't see it happening. I don't think there's going to be a lot of changes done in that district. I really just don't think there's going to be a lot of changes. So, really interesting how that's going to unfold. Really, really interesting how that's going to unfold. I just don't see any changes there in any of those things in that district. I really don't. District 4, this is where I see some changes. I can see Troy, Athens, Royal Oak, Warren, Cousino, Warren, Mott, Warren, DSL, Warren, Regina, but I added Troy back in here and took Sterling Heights out. The reason why I did that is because when you look at how that would fold, is I think Sterling Heights is a little bit closer to Chippewa Valley than they are to, around the Warren area. And I think it would make a lot of sense to bring Troy back into this district because Troy and Troy Athens, we know about that rivalry, how that's unfolded, how that basically really has turned into that interesting rivalry, how that's unfolded. And it would be really nice to get Troy back in that district to match up with their rivals. I think they're a lot closer to Troy Athens and Royal Oak than they are to Bloomfield Hills, Birmingham, and those type of teams. So it'll be very interesting to see what the league does. But I think for League 6, I think you should put Troy and Troy Athens back together in a district like that. That I think would make a lot of sense for them going forward. So it's a very interesting district with them going forward. My District 3 projection, I have Bloomfield Hills, Grove, Seaholm, the Avondale, and of course Marion, Burn Bear the Rice. Avondale most likely be your outlier because with Pontiac moved down to Class B. I could see Avondale with Bloomfield Hills, Groves, and Seaholm, and also Marion, Burn Bear the Rice. My projection there, I think it's going to be very interesting to say the least how that unfolds. But either way, I just think it's going to be, I can see possibly that type of setup. Now, they could bring Troy back in. I don't know if they will or not, but we'll see what happens. We shall see what happens with them. Then we got District 2. Of course, this is where it gets a little interesting. I got Stony Creek, Adams, Rochester, Utica, Eisenhower, Utica, and I added Romeo in here. And the reason why I added Romeo in here is because look at how their district is. Macomb, Dakota, Port Huron, Northern, Anchor Bay. Romeo makes no sense for them being in the district. They're closer to Utica, Eisenhower than they are to Port Huron. I mean, they are closer to Utica, Eisenhower than they are to Port Huron. I mean, makes no sense to bring them to send them east. Absolutely makes no sense. But, I think Romeo should be with Stony Creek, Adams, Rochester. It'll be really tough. Romeo brings their basketball team's all right. Volleyball team's pretty good. Also girls basketball team's pretty good. Connie Brennan's done a really nice job with that program. So that's very interesting right there. I think you should add Romeo in that district. But they could leave it the same. Or if they bring Romeo in there, I think it makes a lot of sense too. So that'll be very interesting to say the least there. And then last but not least, District 1, I have Orion, Oxford, Clarkson, Waterford, Kettering, Waterford, Mott. Pontiac going up to Class B. Wasn't a surprise. I thought hard about this district. Possibly adding Lapeer in there, but I think Lapeer's closeness to Davison will help them a lot. Romeo is another one I considered. She's at the 20 miles from Lake Orion. But I'd left this district the same. Either way, it'd be very interesting to see what happens. As I mentioned earlier, for Waterford Mott's case, I think this would be the worst case scenario if they were in that district with Lake Orion, Oxford, and Clarkston. Waterford Kettering, I have no reason why they were. Waterford Kettering, I just still can't understand why they were in the district final last year for boys basketball. So girls basketball very interesting because you got Waterford Kettering, Clarkson. I think Lake Orion's the wild card in that one. But we'll see what happens. We shall see what happens going forward there. Again, these are not my official MHA projected districts. They will be released later in the month. So we'll see what happens going forward with the district pairings. My final thoughts on this week's show, of course, see what happens. Good luck to everybody in competing in the regional for baseball, softball, and also good luck in lacrosse for girls lacrosse in the state semifinal. Okay, now I'm going to sign off here. Everybody take care now. See y'all next week, everybody. See you later.
OAA Now is produced at Orion Neighborhood Television, Lake Orion's community media outlet. To learn more about ONTV, visit our website at www.orionontv.org or call us at 248-393-1060.